Ladies of Measure chats with Jenny Murphy. In episode 1, we talk energy and the power of manifesting. We deep dive into maybe where we are storing some of the stories of our past and how they could possibly be prohibiting us from living our best self. Please subscribe to Ladies of Measure. Each week I'll be chatting with guests who are at various stages of their career or life, and we explore what they've learned about themselves and how we can pay it forward. Today I'm in conversation with Jenny Murphy, a lady whom I've known for 10 years and has played a huge influence on me both professionally and as a person. Through working with Jenny, I've changed my outlook, perspective, and hopefully what we'll learn a little bit more throughout this podcast is managing energy. Jenny is a Reiki master, and I'm delighted to welcome her to Ladies of Measure. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you so much. And I'm actually honoured that I get to be the first person on your podcast. So thanks very much for having me.
Not at all. Jenny, I think let's take the listeners and let's do a bit of explaining about what energy is. And when we talk energy, what do we mean?
Okay, so you're right. I'm a master in Reiki and also Psyche, but I also have a background in psychology. And I really believe that you need to have the holistic connection for us because we're so adverse as human beings. But we're not only human beings, we're actually energy beings. So we are energy number one. And it's very important that we actually realize our potential and the potential of what it is that we actually get up every single day and we're sending out and transmitting out all this energy. And basically what we're sending out is energy signals of who we are and where we are in our life. So if I was to explain to you, we all understand the anatomy of the physical body. We understand that we're made up of 50 trillion cells. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that each of these cells, we have like 1.4 volts of electricity. So those 50 trillion cells, are all held together by an electric magnetic field. So in science and quantum, and science have given this name over 150 years, they call it the field. When I started my work, I would have started out like as a hobby, a little bit like yourself. I went like that. I went to a weekend and never even had a Reiki energy session. So although I call it Reiki, this is a combination of many, many different disciplines. It's been the combination of all the learnings, teaching, all the master energies that I've actually been introduced, and I've taken out all the good stuff and I like to share and pass on. What I find, it's easy to simplify things for people. So then when I went on and I learned about energy, I was drawn to learn about the mind, because what I realized was that interconnection. So you would work with someone and you'd work with their energy field, and you'd realize that the energy field was holding the stories of their past. And I needed to learn how to actually help people. So I went on to learn hypnotherapy, hypnopsychotherapy, NLP, all the different channels that would actually assist people even through into psychotherapy and, without actually going in too much into somebody's stuff. But when somebody actually was willing to release something, the tools were there, and I passed on the tools even through mindfulness and cognitive behavioral therapy to help people to deal with what it is that they have held for so long and where it is that they actually store it within the body, mind-body system. So we talked about the anatomy of the body, but there's also the anatomy of our spirit. And our spirit is basically everything. It's what holds our planets together. It's, we can call it anything. We can call it cosmic energy. We can call it universal life force. We can call it quantum. We can call it all of these things. And it is each and every one of these things, but also everything together as well. So it's very multifaceted. And when we go in and we talk, and that's why I think a lot of people come and have come to train with me, it's to actually understand the whole workings of us as the energy being, and also the physical being, and also the mental being, and for our emotional and mental and spiritual well-being. And here we are, we're in a time where we have time. So we actually have time, and that's what time gives us.
The pandemic is bringing up a lot for people, Jenny. It's stirring emotions. It's making them have some self-reflection. What are you experiencing at the moment as the main theme or vibe?
An exploration into what we want, because we're sitting there and we go, well, what's going on? We're asking questions. So we're doing what's uniquely spiritual to us. You know, those questions that, why are we here? What's this all about? Where are we going? What's happening? And I think instead of us being faced with a challenge of someone, close to us, dying, because I believe that death is probably the biggest wake-up call for everybody who's left alive. And also when we give birth, when we have a new being onto this planet, we assess what our life is, where we're going, what it is we want to impart into this next generation. And without using words, because we don't actually give words to this process, but that's what we're doing. We're awake, we're fully awake, and we're not being carried along by the processes of everyday life and the brain. And the brain's fantastic, but, really it runs us. It's a driver, it's a driving force, and it doesn't take into account what it is that we want, a free will, where are we going, and we don't even realize we've been on this train, this automatic pilot of living every single day. And for a lot of people, in the natural progression of us developing through the levels of psychology, the development of the human being, sometimes for a lot of people, they're waiting until they're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or just before they die to wake up to why they're here in the first place. But I think at this time on our planet, we all get to wake up. And for us, this progressive channel that you're bringing out, the ladies of measure, we get to wake up very early. We get to realize that we actually do have choice, and we get to realize the amount of energy and our potential and the possibilities that we can actually bring onto this planet.
Yeah. You touched on something, and I think for me, I walked into your cabin in Naas 10 years ago, and you said to me, how are you? And I said, I'm great. And you stood back and you said, but you're not. I had no, preconception or idea when I went to your cabin for a healing what was going to happen. You were recommended to me, this lady Jenny in Naas, and it sounded quite mystical. And when I laid down, and I remember you saying to me, I work with the energy, and I can work deep, I work with you, but you need to come on the journey, and we need to kind of meet halfway. And I think sometimes people who go for healings at the moment with energy feel like you're going to be the fixer, as opposed to working through stuff. And I think for me, what we discovered, or I discovered on my journey, I held a lot of fear-based energy. And if you were to describe what that energy or how that energy presents itself, what does it look like?
What you have just described is basically everyone. It is the anatomy of what we can't see. And when we slow down, slow enough, we're able to tap in to really, how do I feel? And people would say to me, I'd say, okay, so how are you? And they'd say, grand. So I go, what's the level of grand? Is it really bad, really good, or is it just really miserable? Like, what level of grand are you at? Because we have this, like, our program is to maybe get up, get on with it, and to just go, yeah. And that's how the brain works, like exactly that way. But what it does is it processes our everyday interactions and our lives. So we run on that automatic pilot. We don't actually ask, like, what's going on. And that our programs and our conditioning, they start very early. They go all the way into the womb.
Please subscribe to Ladies of Measure, and over the series, we'll learn about energy, failing fast, key events that may have shaped us or influenced us in one direction or another, and we'll have frank and honest conversations about, is it just one big balancing act? You mentioned stories we hold of our past. I wonder, how aware are people that they hold the stories from, as you said earlier, from the womb right through, and and the blockages that they might cause and how one might go about unblocking and releasing.
Straight away I'm thinking of this big burly guy who arrives in my cabin because a real close friend of mine rang and said, listen, you need to do something. This guy's never been on a plane. The whole team are going off tomorrow and this guy needs to get on that plane, but he's terrified. But he needs to go with his team. So I just thought about you. Is there anything you could do? Like these are all favourites. Yeah, come, send them up. What's going on?
Up to Jenny.
Sits down, really nervous. Oh, I don't know, whatever. So anyway, I started working with him. But I don't do traditional stuff. I go with the energy. So I went with the energy of the guy, and I noticed he started to bend up forward and started to get kind of quite nervous and, as if this expectation of something. And little did he know that he bent over, went into the fetal position, and I actually brought him through his birth experience.
Wow.
And the fears of the mother. And it was just taken off. And I actually worked with this guy. I think I finished within an hour. And that guy got onto a plane and has never looked back again. So we say, what is it? It's the stored cellular memory. And this was this is why I had to go and learn about the mind, because I am an intuitive from the time that I actually went and learned about energy. But it's not just about Reiki. It really isn't. Yeah. Reiki was an avenue in to actually do what I came. My mission, my purpose is to serve, to teach, to guide others. And I think we all have a service. So you said, well, yours was, living off of fear-based, could say vibration. So you were in radio fear, so you would approach outside your home every door, open that door. And sometimes those fears would be what would actually navigate you through every experience that you were about to actually meet or experience with people, places, even ideas, or the idea of. And, whether the being worthy of, or maybe speaking up for myself, self-worth or self-confidence. And, you could say, is it the egg or the chicken? But my journey through learning, which was learning through chakras, actually opened me up to the psychology of my own stories that were held. And where they're held is in your chakras.
Yeah, we all possess the power of choice. I guess it's just remembering that we do have the power to choose.
I remember it was a little bit like I did childbirth. I did 27 hours on my first daughter, and she'll be turning 25 this year.
Yeah, wow.
But I did that. And I remember when it was time to have my second daughter, because what I was taught was you do it right and you go and you give birth and this is the best. So I wanted to do the best for my child as my child was coming in. Then I went to have my second child, and I had my first child in Australia. My second child was here in Ireland. Completely different setup. Lying on a bed, not being able to move. Oh my God. And I was thinking, I can't do this. I was in a shower in Australia. I was able to give a complete natural birth, and I could do that. And then I remember I said, you know what? I think I'll have one of those epidurals, because I just wasn't progressing. My body had gone into shock. My body was stressed. I was not relaxed. So I could not give birth. I could not actually relax enough for everything to take its course without going too much into it.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, can I have an epidural? So anyway, the guy came in, set me up for the epidural, and within 2 hours, the baby was born. And at that point, I thought, you can either do it the hard way or you can do it the easy way. And that was easy. That was so easy. My aftercare, so much easier, everything. But what I realized and what I know now was I wasn't in the environment where I felt safe. I wasn't in an environment where I felt I could relax. I was on a table. I had all these machinery. I had all this stuff. And I wasn't supported. And you know something? That's it. As I said to you, coming back to the beginning, my work is in supporting people and serving people and showing people. And I think we all like that, even within our medical systems and all our systems that we have. It's to provide the best care and the best support, and to kind of teach people, not to tell them, but to actually be beside them and actually show them how to do this for themselves and to guide people along the way. And it's about coaching, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know what, Jenny? I think from 10 years ago to now, talking to you, speaking to you, watching the work that you're doing, the individual themselves needs to come to the party with some element of awareness.
Oh, completely,
Yeah.
completely. And even coming back to the reason I kind of brought birth into it,
Yeah.
because the type of person I am, I wanted to share that with every other woman that was doing it the hard way. I wanted to say, do you know there's such a thing called an epidural? Like, seriously? Go have it, guys. You know, make it easier for yourself. Why? Because you're told that you have to do it a certain way. No, because, and then the other way is, if you're calmer, your child becomes calmer. And you know what I'm really given? I'm given here kind of maybe a recipe for life. Seriously. We can do it the easy way. We can do it the hard way. We can get a book that tells us the A to Z of parenting, living, and getting through life. Or we can actually take it on an easy path. You know, learn as we go. Take what's really good. Share what's really good. And, you know, part of all of those lessons is we get to evolve and know what's better for us. So we change. So as a person, we change. And the next part of life, we do it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
We mightn't take as long, and we get to the same finishing point, and we might get there a little bit more relaxed.
Vulnerability, like you're saying there, as women, you wanted to tell the story that there is an option to take it easier. I think for me, both personally and professionally, there seems to be, we hold our vulnerability. We don't want to share our vulnerability. And only through sharing do we actually learn from each other and how we can help, empower, support one another. But there seems to be a still very tight, even in the boardroom or in the home, vulnerability shouldn't be aired. It's a dirty word.
There's a rigidness, and it's about control. If you go into it, it's, you know, our vulnerability. We're actually trying to hold that. We don't want to completely express. We don't want to give away. And really what we're talking about is the feminine.
Yeah.
It's the feminine, you know, versus the masculine, which is the intellect, you know, the structural, you know, it's everything, you know, it's there, it's a control, you know, it's a plan, it's everything that moves. And yes, you know, really what we're explaining as well is the logical mind, or the conscious brain, and the unconscious. And we're talking about the conscious brain being like the masculinity, the control, the critical, the, you know, everything, that structural, everything. And then the unconscious is got the deep, it's everything. It's nurturing, it's the movement. It's actually the flow of everything. It's what generates our whole movement of every single cell of our body, down to our breathing, down to the structural cellular changes that we adapt. And, you know, I always bring it to the macro, to the micro. And the one thing that we've learned from ourselves is we learn to adapt in life.
Yeah.
And that's structural. So it's a little bit like our iPhone. We've got the conscious brain, and it was only ever there to actually give us direction, you know, instead of being the total critical brain that would tell us no and don't do this. And it's connected to the personality. And in our spiritual realms, we say the ego. But really, it's what it is. It's everything from the moment we've been born right into the womb, and even times before, if you believe in that, all the way up to where we are sitting here today. Every single experience is recorded within the unconscious mind. So I would call it the mothership. It's everything about us, and we hold it in place. And if there's been times in our lives where, you know, and this is where I come in, and I love to teach not only the psychology end of it, but the psychology of the chakras. Because like the developmental stages, the very first chakra is what is developed within the womb, which is the electromagnetic field, is already been established within the womb. And us as mothers, we provide that for our children right up to about 2 years of age. So right up to that point, they're within our aura. We keep them safe. You know, it's like the way the mother can wake up out of her sleep and know something isn't right.
Yeah.
Whereas the poor old dad is lying there and saying, God, I didn't hear any of that.
You didn't hear a thing.
Didn't hear. And it's no reflection to the male, because, you know, we do have to come back. There is a difference with us. You know, we can do all of this stuff, but you know what it is? There is, and we have our different qualities. But what we also realize within our systems And within our energy systems, there is both the male and the female, and there is always a balancing act. And what you're talking about there is, going out and coming from a fear-based reality. It's the balancing act between the mental, the conscious mind, and the unconscious mind. And what's happened is at some stage through the first couple of years of our life, well, maybe it wasn't safe. Maybe our environment wasn't safe. Maybe there was some trauma at the start of our life. Maybe there was some trauma within our living environment. Maybe there was, as we went to school, it wasn't such a pleasant experience as we moved away from the comfort and the security and the safety of our home. And we went into the greater, bigger world. And we decided, and our perceptions is, oh my God, this isn't safe. I don't like it here. People get at me. This isn't a nice environment to be. I feel like I'm not clever enough. I feel I'm not smart enough. I feel I'm not fast enough. The other kids are better than me. Maybe there's been an experience of bullying, and that's why it's so important that we teach our children not to actually go and wrap our arms around and protect them, but maybe to go, well, maybe they didn't mean that. Or maybe it's every day to push them a little bit further. No, go into school. Now, this is what you can do. And do roles with them where you encourage them to actually speak out, to stand up for themselves, to be their own voice, to actually turn up the next day. Or maybe as an adult then when things aren't working, I want a sick day at home. I want to go back to mum. I want to lie on the sofa. I want to eat. I want that treat that I got, and we're living life by our programs and our patterns of what has happened in our past. But you know what? We don't even realize that. Because we're automatic ways of living our life. We go on to automatic pilot because life demands so much from us. We're to do 20, 30 different things a day. As I'm sitting here in this time of lockdown, this is a little bit like how my mother lived and parented for us all. People knew that they could drop in and somebody would be in the home place. Maybe there was bread being cooked, maybe banana bread, maybe we made leftovers from whatever and we made this bubble and squeak or whatever we did, but we provided for what we had. And we didn't actually overexert our brains and we didn't expect so much from ourselves. And there wasn't so much pressure put on the family. And, they say, oh, well, maybe they didn't have as much financially then or materialistically. But, now I think everybody is reassessing how they do life. And I think there's a time for us to go into ourselves and to reevaluate, well, what is life to me? And it is a huge wake-up call. And it's fantastic. Every age group gets to do it.
Yeah.
And this is massive. This is something that we have never had on our planet before. It's something that has never come in our time or our parents' time or even maybe our grandparents' times with war and stuff like that. But in our time, no. This has been an opportunity that has been given. So we'll go above the fear of, survival and the fear of what our cells do, which is to form communities and to actually stay alive and to survive. And that's what we do. And we adapt to whatever is thrown at us. And what we get to do now is instead of going out as adults, afraid, of the 10-year-old perspective of the world or the 8-year-old that the teacher said you'll never get to do that and you can never make the team. And now we're on teams and work and we're wondering why we sit in the background, why we have our scarves over. Please don't ask me a question. Why our chests are panicking and why our ears go deaf and why we're sweating. And all we have to do is stand and give a presentation. And this guy is a straight A student and they're wondering why they're reacting to something that someone else finds is second nature to just communicate. And to be honest, Theresa, I couldn't communicate. Seriously, I could not communicate. The idea of standing in front of someone or even sitting like this would have had me in a panic attack. The idea would have set my head. And you know what I know now? It bypasses the critical, logical brain and you go into your stress response. Yeah. So your heart is going to start beating faster and you are not going to make any logic of anything that you've got to say. Now, if I was in a broad, in a room, or I was at one of these team leadership meetings and I seen someone and I seen their body matching this, I'd go, hold on for a moment. Would you like a drink of water? And I would say after the meeting, I'd say, do you know what? We're going to do a little bit of a session here. And I'm going to show you how to calm down. And I see that stress gets to you.
Jenny, that is such a good segue, because I feel the power of manifesting is something that you and I have talked about for a long time. That we do online healing sessions, we set intentions, and I think for years that was like a secret. I wouldn't really tell anyone that I was writing down these intentions, or under a full moon burning what I wanted to release, or saging my house. I'd be like, oh God. And Jenny was this girl in Nace, and she does things but couldn't really tell anyone. I think now, and I think being a mom of two girls and obviously a young boy, you're a mom of girls, there is something in hanging on to a belief. And for me now, the belief and the power of intention and setting intention and actually visualizing it. Because when we talk programming, I think for years, a lot of us have that negative soundtrack in our mind that keeps telling us, I can't do that, I can't do this. But the visual is, you can see yourself doing it, but if you just stop listening inside your head for 10 minutes, and I think the power of writing and actually setting that intention is game changing.
Oh my God, I know. And I think that's why I run those courses.
Yeah.
One of the best gifts I think that you can give yourself is to develop yourself. Go back. And I think what the Reiki energy, because there's a lot of people who just want to know about the chakras, and that's fine. And I bring them through their breath. I bring them through. I'm actually doing a course on developing the chakras, the 7 chakras, and moving through them and understanding what it is, the stories that we carry, that are our stories of our life right up to this moment in time. And we carry them into, through the chakras. And that's like when we started this conversation and somebody lay on my table and I put my hands over them. And that's where my intuitive came on and I could read energy. And it was like, this was something. And I was going, oh my God. And I'd get this idea, or I'd get this flash, or I would just know. And I would say, now I'm going to have to handle this very easy, or they're going to think I'm nuts altogether. And I would just have to mention something. Okay, was there something, just say, is there something happening at work? So we keep this neutral. Is there something happening at work? And then this is what I realized then. I tried to put the psychology and I tried to bring the Western mind into the Eastern culture so I could understand what was going on. And what I realized, that was cellular memory. And what we store there, Theresa, is our stories. So just say if we were in a time where something happened and there was something emotional. So we couldn't just say you're in class and you're in the wrong, and you've been blamed in the wrong. But you want to say, no, it wasn't me. And they're saying, well, you and blah, blah, blah. That emotion, because you can't express it, is cut. And where it lands, if it's in your chest, because you feel so emotional, I've been so badly wronged, or in your power center, which is your solar plexus, and your power is taken away from you, or if it then becomes a fear, the teacher is going to get me, or if I get this wrong. For me, we used to get a slap. They'd take out a ruler and you would get a slap. If you didn't learn, they'd say that you just didn't do your homework and you would get slapped. So I would learn to put my hand up in class and pretend, because I noticed that if your hand was down, they would ask you. Yeah. And then I would get myself into such panic. So I'd go into fight and flight. And my reaction, fight and flight, is to freeze. So I'd freeze, I'd get brain freeze, and I wouldn't remember one thing, although I had practiced every single one of those spellings on the way to school. So this just explains what life is. So then that would get trapped. So when I would actually put my hands, and I know that's something simple, but it could be for somebody a relationship. It could be for someone, the loss of someone, where they just had to get up and get on with it. And in their home, they couldn't emotionalize how they felt, For me, I was quite emotional. I was wanted to hug and kiss everyone. My mother used to say, you're so kissy, Yeah. I don't know where I got you from. You're just so hooky, kissy. So I'd probably trigger my mother because I'd be wanting to lavish, all this stuff. And that's something that I would do. And I remember going to, even what I noticed about even that older generation, if you go and you try and hug them, they'd stiffen up, and you'd say, what's going on here? And my mother and her sisters would laugh about that now. They'd go into the clench themselves. Oh my God, all this emotional stuff flooding in. Oh my God, under attack, emotional attack. But then as we go through and you realize, like what is it that actually holds our emotions? What is it that made it at some stage that it was unsafe for us to express really what we wanted to express? And this is what comes in through the chakras. We actually find some of those stories. For some of the most part of the work I do is inner child healing with people. I help them to release stuff that they were unable to release. And at that point, they would have made a decision. Some, they would have made a belief about what the world really was, that it's not safe to actually say what I feel. It is not safe to express how I feel. I'll be judged. I'll be ridiculed. They'll make fun of me if I cry. Whatever it is. And now as adults, we are actually struggling with actually really manifesting what we want because we sabotage ourselves. You look at you now and you're a man and you're now your own businesswoman.
Yeah.
And if you were to rewind back even 5 years ago, you were a completely different person to who you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And for people, they are not upgrading their beliefs to match the lives they're living now. And that's basically what it is. And when we come into manifesting, to really and truly manifest and to get this rocket off the ground, we need the energy behind it. So we can do all the mantras we want. We can do all the affirmations that are out there. We can sit and meditate day in and day out. But if our programs are that, no, people like me don't, or I can't do that, or I'll never achieve that, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not clever enough, we will only go to the level that we believe that we can. And that is it. It's not a one size fits all. And what you actually rediscover through these times, through your own spiritual journey and practice, and building up your energetic system, is you release the large amounts of energy that you use on a daily basis to keep your emotions intact. Now, before I go in here, I will not lose it.
Yeah.
Or before I go in here, I am not going to get emotional. And I will not let them see that I'm afraid, And I'd have people come in and I'd coach them and they'd go, I want this new position that's becoming available, and I want this promotion. But inside them, they know they're not getting it.
Yeah.
But you know what? If they actually inside them were, I deserve this is what's going to happen, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to get that. By the time we finish, they actually walk out about 3 inches taller and they're going, I am getting this. I bloody well deserve this. I have put this in. And I'm going, yes, go for it. Yeah, we get the energy. And what they've done is they have freed up. And in that session, we may have gone back to a time where they were totally, undervalued in a job, where all their confidence was completely damaged. And we go and we'll actually do a session. They've come for something else. We've cleared that. And next they're gone, oh, and by the way, you came to actually go about this promotion. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I deserve that. And, like what you're doing is you're changing the belief systems around why they should or should not. And that's what manifesting is.
Yeah.
And what I teach, because you've been to my workshops, I also teach people how to harness their energy and how to control their energy and how to bring their energy in and concentrate their energy so that their energy isn't sent out in a million different directions where they feel completely devastated and completely flatlined and where they actually have no energy. They're running on empty because they have given so much out there and they're using so much energy in here to stop from in here from being displayed in a relationship or in a job where they just can't express who they are. If I do, I'll explode. And I just say, well, maybe exploding is the right thing to do at this time in your life.
Yeah.
And they go, really? Yeah. I go, yes. Go out there and scream in a field, get it out of you, But it's about bringing your energy in and actually using the power of the cosmic force. We're all mini cosmic forces.
Yeah. And I think, when you mentioned there harnessing energy, and I think and even in, let's say, a boardroom setting, I think for some people that live in their head in a boardroom that you're talking about there, saying, geez, I can't say something now because if I say something, everyone's going to think that's a ridiculous comment and they'll all laugh at me. And it does go back to childhood stuff. But I think the more and more that you sit with yourself in those settings, you are presenting an energy that might seem threatening to someone, or you're sitting there thinking, they're looking at you going, well, she thinks she knows everything because she doesn't need to talk. But the individual themselves is sitting there thinking, I'm afraid to talk because I just can't deal with what's going to come back at me.
I might look foolish.
Yeah.
I might know enough. Do you know what it is? We will never know enough.
Yeah.
We will never know enough. We could spend our lives, we'll say, well, I'll wait till I've done that and I've done this and then I should be okay. And you know what that is? That's confidence.
Yeah.
That's the difference between, a child getting up there and dancing their heart out and another child, no, because they really believe that they're not good enough. I had a daughter who never went to Irish dancing, but we used to do dancing in the kitchen. And she really believed, because I told her that much, you're a brilliant Irish dancer. Her name up to do Irish dancing. And when I heard her name being called, we were at one of these talent things, in a hotel setting. I heard her name being called and I went, what? She's never done Irish dancing. Well, she got up and she went the wrong way. She went this way. She was giving it all. She was only about 5 or 6. Everybody gave her a huge round of applause because they knew she didn't know how to do it. But they were just laughing at the energy that came out of a child that believed she could. And that's the difference. And you know what I would say to anybody who's listening to this? If you're one of those people sitting, in a boardroom, or if you're sitting there and you're in a group sitting within college, or within a friendship group, and you never put yourself forward, ask yourself the question why. And it does begin and end with you.
Yeah.
And it's about you realizing, you know what, I need to develop skills to actually overcome this because I want to move forward in my life. And, we talked about the gut feeling. Well, it's the gut. And we talk about energy. It's all those little sensories that are picking up. We're picking up through our guts, through the nervous system, the vagus nerve. We're actually transmitting it into these neurochemicals and we're flooding it up to our brains. And we're telling, it's our senses that are telling our brains what to do, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And, we thought that it's our brains that run our life. It is not. It is our environments. It's our beliefs. It's our thoughts and it's our emotions. And what we're thinking and what we're feeling on a regular basis becomes our beliefs. And those beliefs become our mindsets. And our mindsets can be so rigid in the fear. And you know what fear produces? Control freaks.
Yeah.
That's what fear produces.
Yeah.
Seriously, we have to control everything and everyone and every situation. We need to have the structure. It comes straight from the conscious brain. We need to have the structure. We need to know the A to Z, and it cannot go offline. It cannot change. Like we can't. I know that I'm a nightmare for people with control issues. I'm a nightmare for them because I am so random. Seriously, it's like randomly I adapt, I adjust, and I go, oh, don't worry about it. Sure, we can just go with it. Oh yeah, but that wasn't in the plan, And I'd say, yeah, but maybe the plan was exactly where we are. And that's how I live my life.
Explain intuition, Jenny.
Intuition is higher knowledge. So as we develop our first 3 chakras, we come into our heart, we are actually living through the heart and not through the fear-based systems of the conscious brain. We're not doing that anymore. We're not on that thing the whole time. We're actually saying what I feel. You know what I feel? So we become like that empath. We develop the 6th sense, which is uniquely ours as energy beings, as human energy beings. We need to bring everything together in the holistic self and actually live our lives holistically, like W, the whole, istic, not just holistic, whole, the whole nature of ourselves. Why build a ship that we can't actually take flight? Why have something that you can't actually develop or send out into the world? The reason why you walk into a room and somebody totally gravitates to you, because we are a gravitational frequency pulse and we're sending out waves the whole time. But what we don't realize is we've no direction on them. They are going each in all these different directions. So we have no control on our energy. And also, sometimes we're getting entangled with the other stronger people and their stronger energies. And all of a sudden, we are dancing their dance for them. We are not dancing our own dance. We are not living our own lives. We are actually, and I would do this, on some of my workshops, we're the walk-ins for somebody else's dreams, not our own.
Yeah.
And for years, people go along and this is how they've lived. They don't know there's a difference. And that's where awareness comes in. And this is where the likes of your podcast are going to actually reach people where I go today, very, in this stillness and exactly where you are at this moment. Breathe.
Yeah.
Just breathe. And know that there is so much more to you than what you believe or what you think.
Yeah.
And this is where higher energy and consciousness is developed. Why not design the life you want? Why not create a completely different storyline? From the moment you listen to this podcast, you are being given an invitation to have the change you want. What is energy? It's a positive and negative charge.
Yeah.
It's the charge that we send out. And we have to learn to balance the negative and positives. We need to learn then how to actually build up a really high positive charge and send that charge out. And we need to adapt as a species. And we need to be in charge.
And you said to me once, Jenny, and you say to lots of people, just get out of your own way. Just step aside and step forward. And I think if more and more people, because we all have at the moment this notion of living your best life, and it seems it kind of to be this buzzword, but you can. And I think over COVID, the self-isolation, the inter-reflection, time that everyone that said they didn't have, now they have. So by listening to this, today's the day that you start a different story. How powerful would that be?
Yeah. Today is the 16th of May and it's 2020. And there'll never be the 16th of May again. The past is the past.
Yeah.
And if you've got emotional energy caught in your past, this is where, you do your chakra work. This is where you do, for a lot of people, and especially Irish people, they don't like to think about going and seeing a counsellor or a psychotherapist. For some reason, there's a stigma that there's something wrong with me if I take those services. And I think what we really need to learn, and this is throat chakra stuff, and it also is sacral stuff, is learning to communicate our inner thoughts and feelings. And the sacral chakra is all about learning to emotionalize your life, which kind of happens about 3, 4, 5 years of age. I don't, I want, I feel, I know, you've got the children those age. I can do myself. And if they were kind of shamed into, you are very bold, you are very naughty, now that wasn't nice or whatever, and this is done, and you be quiet and you don't do, and whatever. If this was done, on a regular basis, they feel kind of held about expressing really how they feel. Don't doubt yourself. For me, for a long time as an intuitive, I was doubting myself because when I actually said stuff, people would say, oh, no, 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 no. But you know what? Now I know I was 100% right. And all those times, because time has proven to me, I was right.
Yeah.
Seriously. And time does prove to you what you actually were thinking at a certain time. God, I was right. Was that my intuition? Yes, it was your intuition. Yeah. Yes, it told you. Be careful. Beware. Don't trust.
Why is it that sometimes we don't trust ourselves, even though our gut told us that and it felt right and we should have, but then we just overthink it and we don't trust ourselves? What is that?
Do you know what that is? And one of the ones where you learn not to trust yourself is, when you live in an environment, for a lot of people, when you know something is really wrong and you're picking up that something is really wrong, and the adults around you, especially for kids where there's a sickness and they're not being told and there's a change and people are upset and people are whispering and there's stuff going on, you have to be honest with a child.
Yeah.
And Because what happens then as an adult, you doubt yourself. Well, I mustn't know, or I don't trust myself anymore. I don't trust my gut. And really what we're doing is we're picking up the signals from the outside. And what we're doing is we're actually converting them into chemical and cellular change. And we're actually bringing this information in. And we're more sophisticated than any computer system ever created by NASA. So then it comes in as doubt, can't trust, don't know, interference coming in, don't know what I'm thinking, don't know what I'm doing, or there's something wrong with me. And when our adrenal glands are kind of on, we get hijacked by them. And when they're left on for a large amount of times, that's when the immunity systems break down. And it's all linked to the survival. It's all linked to us feeling threatened, whether it's in the boardroom, the bedroom, with our friends, anywhere. No matter where it is, where we feel a threat, where we feel we're not good enough, where we feel that maybe, there's somebody better than me and they're going to find someone better than me. It's only time that he's going to leave me. It's only time I'm going to get demoted. It's only time they're going to see through me that I'm fake,
Yeah.
I'm an imposter.
Yeah. Oh, big. That's huge. Everyone's imposter. And I used to enter presentations or give presentations and come out and be like, I'll be fired after that. But I didn't really believe it. But I had to say it in case I was going to get fired. At least then I had it out there.
I know. So really what we're talking about is manifesting. We are manifesting that on a very low vibrational level, which is the vibration of fear.
Yeah.
When I teach and when we do this work, we're able to build our energy up higher. We're able to learn to bypass the critical thinking brain. We're able to learn to bypass the adrenal kick in, where we're able to use our breath, come back down, and actually go back into what we call the parasympathetic system, which is rest, digest, where we're able to actually re-kick back our immunity again. When we hijack with the adrenals, do you know that our immunity it can be turned off for up to 6 hours?
Yeah.
If you're doing that on a regular basis, that's probably one of the reasons for being sick.
Yeah.
Also, how we think. So, a lot of our work is this provides an energy medicine. So we become our own, medics. We become our own counselors. We become our own coaches. We become our own guidance systems. And that's really what the good is. It isn't just helping us on a physical level, but that gut entry point comes in through the chakras, and it helps us to come up into the higher thinking, into the higher faculties of the brain, the higher circuits, the higher thinking. Neuroscience have tapped into all of this as well.
Yeah.
And they're able to tap into how far we can send those signals.
I think what you're saying there is the check-in, is to sit and check in. So that gut, I think, over prolonged periods of time where people are telling you, like you're saying, adults to a child, no, that's not right. And I'm a big feeler. So I will say, geez, I feel this isn't right. And then someone might say to me, no, this. And then there's times I haven't listened to my gut and I've been overpowered and it's fallen down. It hasn't worked out. And then I'll come back and check in and went, that didn't feel right the minute that person suggested it. But why did I go with it? It's...
The brain kicks in. And I think, like this with even the chakra work, this is a solar plexus point. And solar plexus is self-confidence and self-worth. But it's where the ego lives as well.
Yeah.
So as we balance that and as we actually vibrate that energy really strong in the solar plexus, there is power behind our words and our actions and even our emotions. And when we get that, and you probably actually live, quite sensitively yourself, you probably do go with gut, in all fairness. And what happens is over time, it becomes a practice, Theresa. And over time, you have a practice. And over time, you actually don't go with the critical brain so much. You start to trust your own inner workings, the inner workings of the unconscious and the higher self. We call it the higher self faculties. The higher conscious thinking brain. And you go with the gut, and that is what that is. It's a higher knowing. And what you do is you tend to go with your gut and you'll say no. And you don't drop it because it's a stronger force. You've built so much energy circuits. So you're building up your circuitry in your solar plexus. And, I think for people who come and do the work, they don't even realize that by doing their daily healing, But they're actually building up a strong energy body.
Yeah.
So they're building up their chakra systems and they become powerful forces of energy. And, and you'll say, God, I could feel her energy. People would say to me, oh my God, I felt every bit of that. Or, I'd come in and I'd say, open your eyes when you feel something. And I'm about 5 feet away from them and they're going, oh my God. Because what I'm teaching them is perception and sensitivity. And what I'm really showing them is this isn't anything mystical. This is part of who you are. And you need to tap in to all of you, tap into your resources, tap into everything. And I think, the 100 monkey effect, the more people that tap into the power of themselves, we actually take the world back.
Yeah. Yeah.
People who are actually on a very low vibration and who are actually you find people who really overpower you, who are quite aggressive, controlling, and they come in and it's whatever, and everybody on eggshells, the office environment, even whatever. And you come in and you're going, oh my God. And we're all people are walking on eggshells. That dominant energy has as much power as a high vibrational energy, because I tell you why, they have control and they have intention behind it. So this is where we come into the law of manifesting. So they put their power behind their emotions, which are driven. And if it's anger, frustration, and even, and whatever, and they're boiling over, you feel it. And what happens is your energy starts to flatline. They suck every ounce of positivity out of you, and you go home absolutely drained. And over time, and so that explains how somebody on a very low vibration can take your energy. And really what they do is they're power hungry people and they live off your power energy. So not only are they using they're large consumers of energy, they're using your energy because you give them your energy. You give them your power by being there. You back down. You actually back off. They say jump and you say how high. Really what I'm doing is I'm putting it into layman's terms of how energy, can be manipulated in a very negative way. But when we build our chakra work and when we know and we can stand in our own power, which is the base chakra thing, our energy rooted into the earth, those people bypass you because they know they can't mess with you. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. And then if you're in the presence of them and you see them manipulating someone else, you tend to be the first one to go have a cup of coffee with the other person and say, you know what you should do here, Yeah. I couldn't help but notice, And you start telling them, I know somebody who actually does energy work, let me do it, word of mouth, And you need to learn how to actually speak your truth. You need to learn how to stand up for yourself. You need to learn to give power to your spoken word. You need to get your energy behind, your personality. And this is where we bring the two together. This is where a union comes in, This is where a cell remembering comes in, where you remember, I know why I'm here. This comes in. I remember when I was confident. I know how to do this. That remembering comes alive and we activate in your cells your power. So that actually kicks out 1.4 behind. Yeah. I'm going to go and do something about this tomorrow. I'm going to go in there, and you've actually prepped yourself of what you're going to do. You do it once. You interrupt the behavior.
Yeah, cognitive you change it. You set a behavioral trend that's for the positive, as opposed to continue just sitting there and become carried away.
A victim.
A victim. Yeah.
And I firmly believe, and maybe it's my philosophies, and it's what I like to give out to people. I'll say, you are not a victim. Just remember, you are not a victim. And they come up with a million reasons. I said, your brain has come up with all that evidence. Now, do something about it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do about it? Because unless somebody is to get inside your body and drive your life, things will not change. So you need to wake up and actually take care and bring all your power in and actually make your choices. And do you know what? It's so simple. Doesn't it sound so simple? But it is. It is about taking a breath.
Yeah.
It's about taking the time.
If you put and this, we're using energy, the word, but if you put the energy into thinking differently and empowering yourself and believing yourself and stopping the soundtrack that I need to be a good girl, or I need to do this because this is what's expected of me. You're the only one putting those expectations on yourself.
That is the people pleaser. And you know how spiritual I am, and I just love everything. But this is where it comes in to how we've been programmed and controlled. And through a lot, like when I was brought up, it was such, a religious upbringing for me. And it was, you were taught to put other people before you.
Yeah.
And if everybody gets it right within themselves, we will have a happier existence for all. And you invited me along. You talked about empowering other women. And me as a mother of 4 daughters, and you as a mother of 2, and your little boy. And it's the same. We need to empower each other. And how we do that is we learn from our mothers or sisters and the people who come before us, even the people as our role models in the positions and the experiences through work and college and everything. We learn and we can adapt, because that's something cells has learned to do. And we can, on a very personality level, the persona. You know what persona means?
Yeah.
Many masks.
Yeah.
Many masks. And we can learn a different mask. We can learn to step into more of what is authentic for us as women. And, when I got it right for my girls. When I changed for my girls, because they learned then my ways.
Yeah.
So I changed pattern within women's energy in my family. And I learned to speak up. My mother used to say, because she would be one of the old stock, where the men and the women and all the rest, and you better go home and get the dinner ready and, all this. And she used to say, oh my God, I can't believe. And he did the dinner and he did the ironing. And I'd say, we're a team. We do it together, But I think I came onto this planet as a feminist without even realizing what a feminist was. But I came slap bang in between a load of brothers, and I demanded that I had the same as what they had. And in that lifestyle at the time, that was not a possibility, because there were completely different dynamics for a boy in the family and a girl in the family. But I still never was quiet about it. Never, and I did. And I remember my mother once saying to me, as an adult, you learn from your mother. But she'd say, I learned from my daughter, because I used to say, here, hold on here for a minute. And no. And, my brothers say, here, iron that shirt. And I'd say, here, iron it yourself. Whereas my mother would go, here, give it to me,
I do it. Yeah.
But, they might seem simple. But, that is a generation that wasn't so long ago. And now we're moving into where, we're empowering our daughters. And I say to my daughters, you have been given a gift of power. Don't you ever give that away, because that was hard to come by. And every other woman who made it easier for you to have the rights that you have today. And my daughters would all tell you that, because I would totally give it to them, and I'd say, but remember, there was a lot of women who came before you so that you could be as privileged in having your rights. And us living in Ireland, we'd say there's still so much inequality, but of all the places in the planet, our girls get to have a say, our girls get to have an education. Our girls get to have the same money in McDonald's, if they're training and coming up through the ranks. Yes, we are making a difference. And you are too, Theresa, for later on, for women in business. And we are in the middle of change.
Yeah.
And this is where I would say to the girls as well, with my daughters, I push them along. I'd say, you can do that. Why don't you think you could do that? And I would say, and the one thing that we have in our family is we communicate. We will talk. If there's something going on, we sit together. And what I do is I give them the gift to know themselves early, where they can sit with themselves, where they know, God, I'm not going to hold that emotion. That is something that happened, but it doesn't define me. It's where we go back, and if something has defined them, they now realize that is a concept. Oh, God, I didn't know about that. Yeah. And where we sit, and I say, the fact that you're crying, there's emotion still there. So let's free up that energy. Let's, clear and cut the ties with that part of your life. Now it's time, look at all the people who've come in since then. And you show them how to expand. And I walk beside them, and I always say it, and they don't know why I do this, but I just say, you have me now. And I want to give you everything you have while I'm here with you now. And I want to leave you with the teachings So there might be a time when I'm not here, but you remember Mum used to say.
Yeah.
And, it's something I do, but it's not something in a negative way. It's something in a very positive way. And, I think like that, we are very fortunate women, and we should take care of the women who are not fortunate enough to have a voice. And I have to tell you, Theresa, it's something that's inside me. And I don't know where it comes from, but, I was always fighting the cause of somebody who couldn't fight the cause.
Yeah.
And I think as a collective group of women, I think it's important that we actually stand up for a lot of women who don't have a voice, whether it's cultural, whether it's religious, whatever it is, that we can actually promote and help, in other areas where maybe they just don't have the facilities or the resources to actually have education and stuff like that. And I think it's so important. And like that, like if we are, and there's women listening to this, and even guys listening, my husband will always say, it wasn't until he had daughters did he really, really understand girls. Yeah. Every man that's with us has a sister and a mother, and eventually a daughter, and a granddaughter. And we learn to respect each other. We learn to expect and, to respect the male. We learn to adore our sons. We learn to teach them, about the feminine. We learn to teach them about the sacredness of a man and a woman, or a woman and a woman, or a man and a man, or whatever. We get them to respect, their sexual energy and everything that everybody has to bring onto our planet, in this time. And as I said, the energetic body, we all meet. And we all meet and join energetics, and we light up this world. We really do. And for the areas that can't light up, we help to do that. And as energy workers and that, we're able to create the shift that all of a sudden it becomes normal. And we're able to help other people move into that shift. And it is a shift. It's a shift in energy.
Yeah. Jenny Murphy, thank you so much. That was the most insightful, motivating, inspiring conversation. Thank you.
I absolutely loved it. I really did, and it's really, we're from the stars, come from the stars. It is the Big Bang.
Listening to you and talking to you, you've married the science with it. So when you speak, when we talked earlier about mystical, and when I went to you that time, that's what was in my thought process. But listening to you, and anyone that goes to you, there's a scientific approach underpinning how you go about your work. And I think that's the major difference between seeing someone like you on a long-term basis and going to you work through stuff. It isn't a one-hit wonder, and people are left deflated and untrusting of going that route again.
Yeah, it isn't psychic phenomena. It really isn't. The psyche is your body. We are superhumans. We're supernatural. We really are. And it's learning the superhuman parts of us and to actually bring them alive.
Jenny Murphy, it's been a pleasure. There is certainly a lot of food for thought. If you would like to follow Jenny, you'll find her at Vibe Tribe Jenny Murphy on Insta. Or please give yourself a gift of one of her fabulous courses, which you'll find at www.vibetribe.ie. I hope you enjoyed listening to the very first episode of Ladies of Measure. Jenny Murphy has certainly left her mark on me, and I hope there's some content in there that you as the listener can connect with.